Migrants on the Greek island of Lesbos demonstrated for a second day today. Police responded by firing tear gas into the crowds. The migrants are protesting living conditions after multiple fires burnt through the country's largest refugee camp. Thousands have been sleeping out in the streets without any running water. Now they're asking to be able to leave the island and seek shelter elsewhere instead of being placed in a new camp. Aid workers have been handing out food and water to these migrants, but they say the help is just not nearly enough. Now, Annie Petros is a Canadian who's been providing feminine hygiene and infant care products at the refugee camp, and we've reached her in Mytilene, Greece. Now, Annie, we're also speaking to you because on the night of the fire, you were out there and you were trying to help these migrants. So give us a sense of what happened on the night of the fire, what you saw, and what you were doing out there.
Well, the fire happened around 2 in the morning, and at that point I was where I am right now, safe in my apartment in Mytilene. Right away we realized that the fire was really, really bad and everyone was evacuating, and they were walking about an hour walk from where the camp was to Mytilene. That's where they were going, to the city. So we knew that there's pregnant women, there's injured people, there's old people, or elders who can't walk very far. So immediately, myself and another volunteer, her name is Oceane, she's also 23, my age, we got in our van and we drove to as close that we could get to the camp to look for the most vulnerable people, to pick them up and drive them to the hospital or drive them into the city. We loaded up the van instantly with a very old woman with a bad leg, 2 or 3 pregnant women, and then 2 young boys, probably no older than 16 or 17, with very serious injuries, and they needed to be taken to the hospital right away.
Annie, let me jump in for 1 second. So this massive fire happens at a refugee camp that's meant to house about 3,000, and we understand about 12,000 live there. Do you have any?
Over 13,000.
Over 13,000. So it's a crowded place. I've read that it is just a horrendous place. It's not fit for that many people at all. When you picked up these individuals, what were they telling you? What had happened?
They were silent and terrified. We were driving through the road, just packed with people. I was flashing my high beams of the van because I didn't want to honk, because I didn't want to add to the fear. And it was silent. Everyone was just focused on walking away from the fire and towards somewhere else.
Were you afraid?
They weren't talking. They were terrified. Of course I was afraid, but I got to come back to my apartment after and get in my nice bed and FaceTime my parents in Calgary. And I knew I would be safe the whole time just because of the privilege that I hold from being who I am, where I'm from.
So where did you end up taking the people that you had picked up?
We did get them to the hospital. We left probably around 2 in the morning from my apartment. By the time we picked them up, it was maybe 2:30. And then by the time we finally got to the hospital, because there was police road blockades, there was fascist movement that we had to avoid or we would have been attacked and targeted, we ended up getting to the hospital around 5:30 in the morning. It was a long day, or a long night of driving from police blockade to police blockade, trying to figure out how to get these people to the hospital. But we did make it. We did make it to the hospital with them.
So, Annie, what is happening with those 13,000 people who now no longer have this shelter, no longer have the camp?
Well, so right now they're stranded on a stretch of road between the camp and the city, Mytilene. They're blocked in with police blockades. They're forced to stay there. They have virtually no support. NGOs have been working incredibly hard to provide food and water, blankets and tents if they're able, but the UN is not there. There's no people walking around in blue UN shirts providing aid. That's not happening. The European Union is not there. It's literally NGOs scrambling because we are now aid workers. We're emergency aid workers now. So at the moment, they're there, they're homeless on the street, sleeping on the cement. But as we speak, the Greek government is setting up a new camp with the support of the UNHCR to make it a replacement of Moria refugee camp.
Now, Annie, I've read multiple reports that indicate that the tensions were already high between the residents, the locals in these cities and communities surrounding the refugee camp, and the migrants. What is the situation like now? Has this heightened tensions?
Yeah, I would say that this island itself is a conflict zone. There's conflicts between residents, between refugees, between the police, between NGOs, between anti-fascist groups, between fascist groups. Everyone is at conflict. Right now, of course, the situation is worse because now a whole stretch of road is blocked off. The camp literally burnt to the ground, including the olive groves around the camp, which are very important to the people here. And now they're resettling them at a different camp. So a different plot of land from this island is going to be turned into another camp. That's, for the people here, that's really not fair. They've been carrying this burden of providing aid for, it's Europe's biggest refugee camp. It's not just the biggest in Greece, it's the biggest in Europe. And it's falling completely on the backs of the residents of this island, of Lesbos Island. Yeah.
And Annie, let me. I don't know how much you've been following the international coverage, but this story, considering the fact that 13,000 people were affected, has been getting minimal coverage, I would say, internationally. What does that indicate to you?
To me, it indicates that nothing will happen. In the coming days, people will die. A lot of people will die. Babies have been going since Wednesday night without proper food, without proper care, sleeping outside without any supports. Like today, the NGOs were able to provide the best food distribution they've done so far, where most, but not all, most people got food and water, but not all. It's been 3 days. People will die. Coronavirus is present here. Everyone right now is just mixed together. There's no masks, there's no sanitation. There isn't even outhouses set up in this area. They have literally nothing. People will die, and the United Nations, Canada, the governments of Europe, they're ignoring the problem because it's not happening right in their countries. Greece is forced to bear the burden of this political crisis because of where they are politically.
Annie Petros from Mytilene, Greece, I want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.